All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Team Call. My name's Emily Gernot, and I am an Emerald Ambassador. Tonight, we're going to be talking about evaluating your business and mostly the importance of it. I have some stories to share with you and some tips and some really simple things to start putting into action that I think will help you make some major progress. Um, First, I wanted to throw kind of a disclaimer out here. I think when we talk about evaluating your business and looking at things from an outside perspective, looking at the numbers, trends, things like that, sometimes people can kind of dismiss themselves and think, well, I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a math person. I know I used to say that type of thing about myself. I was horrible at math in school. I was just diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, which kind of helps me with the mystery of why I kind of was terrible at those things. Um, but none of that has stopped me. None of that has stopped me from evaluating my business. And I actually look to my dad a lot for inspiration on that because my mom and dad were dairy farmers. And my dad is a super sharp business person. And I remember growing up and looking at him in his office in our little farmhouse and seeing him work his magic on the business. And he would have stacks and stacks of papers all disorganized and disheveled across his desk because he was just as bad ADHD as me. And he had a terrible time with organization and cleanliness and all of that type of thing. But he was super focused on evaluating his business, tracking trends, knowing what exactly was happening in his business. And it served him well. It helped him anticipate what to do next, how to make changes when the market was up, when the market was down. And it helped him make adjustments where he needed to make adjustments or start diversifying his income when milk prices were down and things like that. He was smart about those things because it mattered, because that's how he provided for our family. And he figured out a way, even if that wasn't his natural gifting. And the same is true for me. I have made it a point to become a master at evaluating my business and figuring out what I need to do next in order to grow, even though that's not a strength of mine whatsoever. Um, and when another story to throw at you. So about 4 years ago, I took a job training horses for Kimmy Nichols. She's super well known in our industry. And she is somebody that people look to for her training techniques and for her breeding program. And when she offered me the job, I was absolutely geeked. I thought, this is my dream job. I know I'm going to learn so much from her. She's got the best training program that's out there. She probably has so many magical tricks and things up her sleeve that are going to help me so much. And she probably has really distinct things that she's doing differently than me. And I remember driving like on my little 1,200-mile journey from Michigan to Texas to take this job and thinking and dreaming about, like, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this lady. Like, it's probably so different than what I'm doing, what I'm used to. And I got there and I learned the biggest lesson of all was that the magic is in the mundane. It was the tiny little daily things that she was doing that made her program so great. She wasn't doing anything different really than what I was doing, but she was more consistent. She was more detail oriented. She knew exactly what was happening with each horse every single day. She was attuned to all the tiny little bitty details that made a difference. The magic is in the mundane. It is not some overwhelming, sweeping change that you need to make. Magical thing outside of yourself that has to change. The magic is in the little bitty details. And that's what it was with Kimmy and with the horses. And that's what it is for Plexus as well. The power of evaluating where you are at and why it's so important is because people naturally have the tendency to get into ruts. That's kind of how your brain is actually wired to work. It helps you survive when you're out in the wild and you have to find a path to food and to water and to shelter and things like that. The same thing that creates like narrow pathways in your brain in order to find your way to water and shelter and back and forth is the same thing that creates ruts in your business. So it serves you on one hand, and on the other hand, it's to your absolute detriment. And so recognizing that, like, yeah, I'm wired for ruts. Like, that's a natural thing. It's not anything to be ashamed of. If you're in a rut, totally normal, totally natural, nothing to be ashamed of. It's not necessarily laziness or anything. It's just a rut. And that's what your brain was designed to do. But ruts are not where progress lives. If you want to make progress, you have to bust out of the rut, and you have to know exactly what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and be able to evaluate those things in order to make changes. I started going to the gym a couple of years ago. And when I first started going, I worked with a personal trainer. And one of the conversations I had with him was about people that I had known that went to the gym for years and years and didn't see progress. And I asked him, I'm like, Rob, why do people go to the gym every single day and they look the same year after year? Like, their body never changes. They're not losing the weight that they want to lose. They're just kind of stuck, but they're there. They're putting in the work. They're doing the things. Why aren't they making progress? And he said, Emily, they aren't tracking anything. They come and they do the same thing every single day. They lift the same weights. They never go up in weight. They don't challenge themselves. They're not tracking their nutrition. And so they get what they get out of it. They come, they do their routine, they do their habits, and then they leave, but nothing ever changes. And that is why they don't get results. And I'm like, well, I ain't going to be one of those people. So tell me exactly what to do, and I'll do it, and I will track it, and I will see progress. And that's what we did. For the first 3 or 4 months, I worked directly with this trainer. I tracked my macros. I knew everything that was going in my mouth, and I knew all of my outputs at the gym. So when I was lifting weights, I stuck to the program. I went up in weight when Rob told me to go up in weight. I changed my routine when he told me to change my routine. I made adjustments when I had to, and I saw progress. I saw a definition in my legs I had never seen before in my life. I noticed a difference in my body fat percentage. My weight changed how I was hoping it would change. And all of that was due to tracking it and making adjustments as I went. So if you want to make progress, you have to know where you are to begin with and track what you are doing. One more story, and then I'm going to get into what we actually need to be tracking. This is going to be a super short team call because it's a super simple concept. And I'm hoping that this is something that you can share with your teams down the road. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. That's the whole point of this, is being black and white and direct and telling you how it is, and also demonstrating how and why this works. So in order to get to diamond, get to where you actually want to go, you have to have a very honest conversation about where you are and what you are doing. And this is not the time to be delusional about anything. Be honest about what you are actually doing every single day for your business. And here's why. I live in Abilene, Texas, and Abilene, Texas is like the central part of Texas, and there's nothing really around it. If you go 20 minutes in any direction of Abilene, it's like completely desolate. There's nothing. And so I was going to a friend's house out in the country, and they live like way out there. Like, there's nothing out there by them. It's nothing but mesquite trees and prickly pear cactus and just complete nothingness. And so I was driving out to their house, and I lose my GPS. GPS is not working at all. And I give them a call, and I'm like, can you help me out? I have no idea how to get to where your house is. And they're like, well, where are you? I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing distinguishable about where I'm at. I'm like, there's trees, there's dirt, there's a road. I don't know. Like, there's nothing I can tell you about. And so they're like, well, I don't really know how to tell you how to get here if I don't know where you're at. And so they're like, well, just keep driving somewhere and you'll find something distinguishable, and then I'll be able to tell you. And so I drive a little further, and sure enough, there's a house with some characteristics I can describe to them. And they're like, oh, yeah. I know exactly where you're at. I know exactly how to get you where you need to go. So from there, they were able to give me step-by-step directions of how to get there. And I'm like, sweet, I made it to the house. Everything was great, you know? And it reminds me of, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the MapQuest days, like before GPS at all, before Garmin, any of that, where you literally just printed out like step-by-step directions of how to get from point A to point Z. But what a funny time to be alive. That was wild. Felt like Lewis and Clark. But you'd get this print off of directions, and it would just be step by step. There wasn't a map involved. It was just like step 1, go 2 miles this direction, blah, blah, blah. And if you, at any point you got off course and you didn't know where you were, but you kept following the directions, you could end up somewhere way out of the way, like not at all where you want to be, because you're just following these directions and you're following them from a point that you weren't actually supposed to be at. And so this all correlates back to what I'm talking about. If you aren't honest about where you're at, if you aren't evaluating what exactly is going on, it is really hard to tell you how to get to where you need to go. And I know this after 4.5 years of doing this and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coaching calls, that if you aren't honest about where you're at and about where you want to go, it will be very hard for your sponsor to tell you how to get there. Okay, so that's the point of evaluating your business, to be honest, to establish this is where I'm at, this is where I want to go. Now, how do we get there? So there's only 2 things you need to evaluate in your business. Only 2. Remember, the magic is in the mundane. First, number 1 is the number of inputs. So actions taken to grow your business. In other words, IPA. And if you've been around a while, please don't roll your eyes. I know it's frustrating to hear this as the answer, but it really is that simple. We want it to be so complex. We want this business to be super duper complex. And here's the reason why. Because if it's complex, we have a great excuse for not being where we want to be. Because if it's complicated, then it's hard. It's really hard to do, right? And if it's hard, then I have an excuse to not do it. But that's actually not how this business works. It is so simple. And if you embrace the simplicity, if you remove the drama, the emotions, the blah, 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 the head crap that we put in our heads, and if you just take the actions, the simple, daily, mundane, simple, easy actions, you will make progress. And it really, really, really is that simple. So what you're going to look at is the number of inputs, the number of actual actions that you are taking. So what does that look like on an IPA sheet? I have IPA sheets for my team. I can put them in the comments of this video, but that's going to be the number of reach outs. So new people that you were talking to about Plexus, new reach outs, the number of follow-ups, the number of posts. So Plexus posts, personal posts, track them both. The number of customer check-ins, the number of people that you are presenting the opportunity to. These are income producing activities. Things that are not income producing activities. Making graphics, talking about the business to another business builder, just ideas, throwing around ideas, right? Other things that are not income producing, scrolling TikTok, scrolling Instagram, trying to find somebody to reach out to, engaging on the team page. Those are lovely, wonderful things to do, but they do not make you an income. So pay attention to what your Plexus time is spent doing. If you have a 30-minute window to work in, you can absolutely knock out 5 reach outs, 5 follow-ups, 2 Plexus or 1 Plexus post, 2 personal posts. You can do that in 30 minutes if you set your mind to it, I promise. And that is your income producing activity. Imagine working 30 minutes a day, super focused and just getting it done. And then you have all this extra time to invest in the fluff around that. So the fluff would be the outside things besides these core activities. You would get so much done if you would focus on those activities and get your numbers in. Two things are important with this. You have to do the numbers to get in the reps. You need practice, because when you first get started at this, just like when you get started at anything, you're gonna not be great at it. Like, your communication probably isn't gonna be good, and you're gonna forget to ask questions when you send out a reach out message, or you're not gonna know what video to send. You might not know how to connect with people very well, but you need practice, and you need practice, and you need to put in the numbers to get that practice. So keep it simple, work on the numbers, get the numbers in, and track them. If you do this for 90 days straight, and you track every single thing that you do for income producing activity, and you still don't get results, you still don't improve, then we go to number 2, tracking the quality. Okay, the quality of your inputs also matters and also improves with practice. So if you are struggling with your reach outs, you're not getting the type of responses that you need from those, then you need to track the quality of those reach outs. Am I connecting with these people? Am I looking at their Facebook or Instagram page and finding out what we have in common? Am I adding value to their life by posting things that matter to people, or that entertain or inspire or educate them on something? Am I adding value to my audience? Those are the things that will help you look at quality. You need both. You need quantity and you need quality. And if you have both of those things going for you, and you are tracking it in your IPA, and you are committed to that process, you will make progress. It is that simple. If you want to go to Diamond, you have to remove all the drama, all the thoughts, all the emotions around all that stuff, and get your hands dirty in the actual IPA. And when you do, your confidence will grow, your enthusiasm will grow, your excitement will grow, your team will grow, and you will start building momentum. Just like what I was doing in the gym when I was working out with Rob, I saw progress. I started gaining momentum. I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have muscles under all of this fluff. And you will have the same experience with your business. 3 months into this thing, if you stick to the simple, basic, mundane tasks and get excited about those things, you will see progress, you will move forward, and you will build momentum. And when you do that, there is no telling where you will end up. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. I'm keeping it super short and sweet for a reason. And I hope that this stuff helps you, and you remember these stories when you're thinking about, gosh, why am I not seeing progress in my business? Oh, wait, I haven't tracked it. That's your answer. Okay. Thank you guys for getting on. I hope you have an amazing night.